All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's live where we're going to be talking about how there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Everything you do is from a place of self preservation. And this is my definition of taking the red pill, right? So, everyone in the awakening world saying we need to take the red pill as if it's a reference from the Matrix. Taking the blue pill is going back to sleep and staying in your illusion, and taking the red pill is waking up to how reality actually is and what the truth is, and all of the ways that we've been tricked to believe that reality is one way when really it's another. And it's interesting because, again, I completely understand why, especially right now, right? Like, everyone is in a situation where, like I said, like with coronavirus and everything that's happened with that, we're all kind of feeling like, wow, things are not what they seemed, or we kind of have had all this time on our hands that we didn't have before, or these awarenesses that have been coming up that weren't there before as to how the world is actually functioning. And we're either less distracted, or we're, like I say, we're being exposed to things that before were being covered up, before we're less exposed. And even with that, there's lots of conflicting opinion about what's real and what's fabricated and what's going on and all these things. And I want to talk about this and bring it back to our individual selves because, again, my opinion is that we are never going to find the truth, with a capital T, from another human being. Because the truth, in so many ways, is lived and experienced. It's relative to who and what we are. So it's not to say that there is an ultimate truth. There absolutely is. And a lot of our relative truth, we're going to realize, is relative to everybody. And then what is pertinent for us to be doing in our lives, to be moving ourselves forward, to be creating a world that is more harmonious and a place where all of us can be and be ourselves and be in a state of supported learning is going to start with each one of us creating that world for ourselves. Okay? And again, I also just want to say that, like, I am not up here teaching that we are ever going to get to a place where the world is perfect and there's no challenge and there's no obstacles and everything is completely equal for every human being, and that we can even control for that. Okay? The truth is that, of course, we grow through challenge and we grow through struggle and we grow through facing obstacles. And that is just nature, right? Like, that's how nature grows. Nature has a nature and nature has a nurture. And we human beings are not different from nature. We are a very complex version of nature, but we are not nature. All right? And so the goal is not to create a perfect world where there's no conflict. The goal is to create a world where we can, as a humanity, learn how to work with the inherent struggle and challenge that comes with growth without being antagonistic to each other as a human race, and without being antagonistic to nature as a human race. That a lot of our problems are coming from not reality challenging us, not us learning from real reality, but they are coming from us as a human race being antagonistic towards ourselves and each other. And we came by that honestly. Okay? So why are we so antagonistic to ourselves? Why are we so antagonistic to each other? Right? We often hear people say, like, especially in the self-love movement that's happening now. We're hearing people say, like, I just don't love myself enough. I'm doing this because I lack self-love. I'm doing this because I need to, I'm sabotaging, I'm coping, I'm not asking for help. I'm doing these things that are seemingly against myself, or I hate myself, right? Like I literally have aspects of myself that I don't like, and I'm constantly battling against them. I have habits that I think are wrong with me. I have emotional states that I get into that I feel are bad and wrong, and I'm trying to get rid of. And I just lack self love. That I get into these situations. I lack self love that I can't love myself when I'm in them. I lack self love that I don't know how to do this thing that's good for me, right? That I logically understand if I just did something different, it would work out better, and I can't make myself do it. So I'm just lacking self love. And same thing with just looking at our coping mechanisms, looking at our sabotage, looking at our ways in which we seemingly harm ourselves, right? Our addictions, our self-abuse, the ways that we harm each other in relationship, the way that we pick the same relationships over and over again that are harmful to us. We look at all of these things and we think, what's wrong with me that I am doing this? What's wrong with me that I'm doing this? What's lacking in me that I'm doing this? Right? And like I say, the self-help world has co-opted the self-love movement by saying you lack self-love, right? This constant, the one message from capitalism that keeps the economy going, the one that we have in this world that we live in, is this constant, you lack something. There's something missing in you. You're too little of something. And even the flip side of the coin, you're too much of something, is still the same message, just the opposite side of the same coin. Because the answer is, you need to buy something, you need to acquire something, you need to do something, you need to produce something in order to remedy this inherent flaw within you. And that fundamental idea, again, so long as we are working from the fundamental idea that there is something inherently flawed about us, we are never going to get anywhere. Because that's starting from a false foundation. And when you start from a foundation that's incorrect, you can't ever get to truth from that. Right? If we start with, this is the fundamental assumption, I am lacking something. There's something wrong with me. We are starting from an incorrect foundation. You're not lacking anything. There's not something wrong with you. Okay, so why do we do all these things? Why do we do these seemingly self-harming, why do we do these seemingly other harming things? Why are we so antagonistic to ourselves and others? Why do we self-sabotage? Why do we cope? Why do we learn in our intellect something that could be better for us? Like, why do we learn that we understand what I'm doing isn't working? What I'm doing is causing me harm. What I'm doing is causing harm on some level. And Glenn, this is going to answer your question. He says, you say when we are either growing or not growing. When do you know it's time to grow or move on from your current life? This is what I'm going to talk to you about. This is what this whole video is about. Okay? That ultimately, whatever we're doing, wherever we are, whatever is going on with us, we need to start from the new foundation of, where in my childhood did I learn that the way that I am behaving right now is the safest and most self-preserving thing I can do? Because that is the question that's going to lead us to the answer of why we are doing what we are doing. The actual, true, real answer of why we're in what we're in, why we keep choosing the same circumstance over and over again, why we keep doing what we're doing, why we have intellectually learned that we could do something different, or that there is something different, or that we could let this go, or whatever. And we don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know what. Or we try our best, we really try to let it go, we really try to move on, we try to make new habits, we do all the self-improvement stuff. And for some reason, we slip back into the old thing, even when the new thing feels better. Even when we're doing all this work that I talk about, and we're pain and pleasure, and we can feel like, oh man, there's so much pleasure in doing the new thing. There's so much less pain. The old thing is pain. But then I still go back to the old thing. What's wrong with me? Nothing. Okay? We need to accept a fundamental truth about ourselves as a humanity, which is, yes, we have a frontal lobe. We can tell stories. We can have higher awareness and higher understanding. We can have all of this. That is absolutely true. But that does not negate that we also have a brainstem and a nervous system that was programmed before our intellect was formed. And so again, if you watch The Biology of Belief, and Bruce Lipton talks about how The Matrix is a documentary, it's not a science fiction movie, that we are all programmed to believe what we believe, and that it opposes reality, our cells, our biology, but we don't know it because we're programmed. This is what he's talking about. It is not esoteric. It is not spiritual. It's biological fact. From 0 to 7, your brain was not formed. You were not making reasonable, rational, logical, pure seeing of reality choices or understanding things the way that they actually were. You were not thinking things through. You did not have the capacity to do that. Rather, you had a primitive nervous system that was taking in stimulation, feeling pain, pleasure. So this is also big for us to understand. Pain and pleasure is felt in every single one of your cells, because every single one of your cells is wired for survival. We are animals. We are nature. That's our biology. Yes, we have a frontal lobe. Yes, we have higher reasoning, but that doesn't erase our physical animal bodies that are fully nervous system, chemistry, electricity, programmed and wired like all other forms of life for self-preservation. So we're taking in stimuli, and when the stimuli is pain, that's perceived by the nervous system, don't even need your brain at all, as threat to survival. When the nervous system experiences pleasure, that is perceived as survival, getting my needs met, good. So when we're 0 to 7, especially, we're all nervous system programming. Our brains are developing. They're starting to be able to tell stories. We get to a place in our childhoods where we start to use stories to explain our physiology to ourselves. And these are childlike stories that most of us keep with us for the rest of our lives. But we understand that in our infancy, we are completely dependent upon our caregivers to meet all of our needs, to take us out of pain and to let us be in pleasure. So again, our nervous systems are perceiving pain is I'm going to die. Pleasure is I'm going to live. That's trauma. And when our caregivers don't know how to make our pain go away, when we are not soothed, when we are not fed, when we are not chained, when we are not clothed, we can't understand, it's okay, mom will be here later. She's just a little bit upset. None of these things. When we're in pain and then it's not remedied, that's an emergency. And the only time that exists for a baby is right now. right? So that's trauma to the nervous system. And then as we start to grow, as we start to be able to start to form stories, we start to form the stories of not, oh, mom's just a separate person from me. Don't worry, I'm going to grow and learn and change and become someone who can meet my own needs. I'm not fully dependent on them. We start with our cognitive being able to notice patterns, make stories, make up things about ourselves in reality that aren't true as we're growing. So we start to have pain and pleasure that is completely dictated by our caregivers. Because again, remember, when we're in pain and they can't remedy it for us, that's it. That's all we have. We don't have the capacity to remedy it for ourselves. So our nervous system is going into a state of fight or flight. And then our brains start to tell us the story of, this is because mom doesn't love me. I did this bad thing, mom pulled away, and now I'm under threat. So I need to do whatever I need to do to get mom's love back, because when mom loves me, she takes care of me. When dad loves me, he takes care of me. When they're mad at me, when they reject me, when they don't understand me, I stay stuck in pain. That is the one thing we had control over as children. Our own behavior to manipulate, not intentionally, our own behavior to figuring out what we needed to do and what we needed to be to get our caregivers to take care of us. So that's already programmed into our nervous system from 0 to 7. And so whatever the rules were in your household for who and what you had to be, the behaviors you had to do, the behaviors you weren't allowed to do, the way you had to communicate, the manipulation, the maneuvers, and all this stuff, whatever hoops you had to jump through to get your parents' love and approval, that got recorded into your nervous system as what is required for survival, because it was. In your childhood, it was. You were victim to your caregivers and their version of reality. Because again, real reality is really about learning what supports my growth, because I am ultimately biology. And the thing that's going to feel good is growing. The thing that's going to feel good is whatever feels like self-preservation. And the thing that's going to feel bad is whatever feels like a threat to my self-preservation. So whatever is actually blocking my growth, or that which contradicts what my nervous system is programmed to believe is self-preservation. So now in our adulthoods, we all still feel, number one, that needs get met from the outside. This is why we are all so addicted to approval, to external approval. Because again, in our childhoods, that was reality. External approval equaled survival. We could not meet our own needs. We could not care for ourselves. We were not capable. Our storytelling and pattern recognition programs for this is how reality works were being formed in those early years in our childhood situations with our caregivers, with our teachers, our religious leaders, whatever we were taking in of these are the people that are in control of the things that I need and I want. They have the food, they have the money, they have the love, they have the attention, they have all these things I can't give myself. They have all the things that are required for my growth, the things that feel good for me, that are required to support me. They all have that. I don't have access to it. I can't get it myself. We weren't in that place. I don't even understand myself. All I'm understanding, all of my attention is being focused on the environment around me, because that's where all my needs get met. So again, this is where we start to find the split between our true nature, real reality, true pain and pleasure, and conditioning and programming. Because again, in our childhoods, It may have been counter to your true growth to shut down your emotions, because that is true. That is counter to your growth. Now, as an adult, especially, when we don't listen to our emotions, we're shutting down an awareness of something being antagonistic to us or something being good for our growth or whatever. That had to take a back seat. If you cried and your caregivers scolded you or abandoned you, your nervous system and your immediate reality was, yes, if I shut down these emotions, long term, that's blocking my capacity to understand reality. Long term, that's blocking my capacity to grow into what I need to grow into. Long term, that's antagonistic to me. But short term, getting mom to like me again, that's what's important for my survival. Because she feeds me. She clothes me. She loves me. She nourishes me. If I don't have her, I have nothing. So what am I going to do? Am I going to embrace my emotion and let myself be rejected by my mom? Of course not. My nervous system and my storytelling are going to take over, and they're going to say, most horrendous thing for my growth, my survival, is caregiver rejecting me. So anything that contradicts that, no matter how true it is to my nature, no matter how actually life-generating it is for me in real reality, in this specific circumstance, the most important thing is to be accepted by my caregivers, because they have the access to all the things that I need. Yes? So we shut down that part of ourselves. And now we're operating in programming, conditioning, not reality. We're operating in the temporary codependent reality of our childhoods, not real, true reality. And this happens over and 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 over again, to the point where when we start to become adults, our pattern recognition mind, our survival mechanisms, all of these things that we are being conditioned and programmed to believe are so rooted in our nervous systems that it has completely filtered our perception of reality. It's completely shifted the clean pain, pleasure, this is reality, this is out of alignment with reality, perception machine, which is what our bodies are. And it's been hijacked by, this is what I had to be accepted. And being accepted was survival. So by the time we get into our adulthoods, where we are capable of providing for ourselves, where we are capable of understanding and meeting our own needs even when other people can't, where we are capable of being different and being rejected and surviving anyways, it's too late. We're already programmed. We're already conditioned for, this is how life is, this is how I need to be, this is how I get my needs met. And then we go out into the world and we are only attracted to situations and people that share the same programming as us. So you want to know why you keep getting in that same relationship, why you keep getting in the abusive relationship, why you keep being an abuser, why you keep all these, you keep having these cycles of repetitive behavior. You leave the job, you get a new job, and it's the same job. You leave the relationship, you get a new relationship, it's the same relationship. You quit the diet, you start the new diet, it's the same diet. Why do I keep doing this? Because to your nervous system, that is safety. No matter how seemingly antagonistic it is, that's the environment that you know how to get your needs met. That is how you are getting your needs met. Every one of your addictions is a part of how you're getting your needs met. It's a part of how you shut down parts of yourself that you learned, I cannot be because they will equal I get rejected. Every coping mechanism is how you're dealing with the contradiction of who you really are and what feels really good to you and what your nervous system is never going to let you do because it contradicts your programming. So this is the reality. Everything that you do, you need to start to look at this one question. Where did I learn that this is the safest way to preserve myself? Whatever I'm doing, how is this the only way I know to meet a need? If I keep getting in the same relationship, this is what my nervous system is familiar with. No matter how abusive, no matter how self-defeating it appears to be, no matter how you may be able to envision a much better, more supportive relationship or situation for yourself, your nervous system doesn't know how to do that. Your nervous system, when you change homeostasis, because again, remember, we're biology. Our cells, especially when we're in fear, so remember this, when we're in the fear state, feeling like survival is threatened, which most of us are all the time because we're being manipulated by the world. Every single time we're told we lack something or we're too much of something, that triggers our nervous system, right? Because in our childhoods, when our parents thought that we're too little or too much, they pull away, they abandon us, they reject us, they shame us, threatens our survival. We go into nervous system response. We do whatever behavior we have to do, or shut down whatever behavior we have to shut down. We start to learn to hate ourselves, these parts of ourselves that seemingly cause us to get rejected, cause us to get abandoned, caused us to get abused, cause us to not get our needs met, which we then see in ourselves as antagonistic parts. We don't like these parts because these are the parts that threaten my survival. We hear it from the outside, it threatens our survival, and then what do? We do what we've always done. Because that's how the fear state works. That's what your nervous system does. It is programmed. It will say, I'm in fear, so I'm just going to do what I've always done. I'm going to pick that relationship. It's going to seem so logical and so reasonable to me to just do my behavior. And then we look back and we're like, why would I do that? Because your nervous system took over. It just said, we're in a state of threat. If we get abandoned, rejected, abused, we're going to die. This is what I know to do to be secure, to get that approval, to get that love, to get that acceptance. And then I'm going to curate my environment every single time to match my conditioning. Because then when my nervous system takes over, it works. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel threatened or attacked and the people's conditioning around me is different than the conditioning I had. So then when I do my thing, it doesn't work. It doesn't get love and approval and acceptance. It doesn't get the reaction that I'm used to. And now I really don't know what to do. Because again, most of us are not even aware of what our needs are, why we're in pain, what's going on. We're just reacting. We feel stimulus. We react how we reacted in our childhoods to get our caregivers to do whatever they did for us. And we're just doing that over and over and over and over again. So how do we know when it's time to move on? Most of the time, you're not going to consciously tell yourself it's time to move on. Because your nervous system is going to say, no, we're not going to move on. Right? This comes down to this. If you really want to take the red pill, you really want to wake up to what's conditioning and what's programming and what's real. We start with everything I'm doing is an act of self-preservation. Everything that I am doing is an act of self-preservation. When I seemingly make bad choices. We need to start to understand we're not making bad choices. Most of us, when we're in an addictive state or in a codependent thing or we're in some sort of self-abusing behavior, even if you become acutely aware that you're going to do it, you're going to engage, you can see, okay, this is going to be bad, right? This is going to hurt me in some way. This is going to hurt someone else in some way. We can see it. We can understand it. And then I ask you, can you actually stop yourself? And most of the time, the answer is no. And even if you can, you stop yourself. And it requires a whole bunch of white knuckle effort. And then it causes massive anxiety, massive depression, this huge upsurge of just like nervous system emotion. And you go into kind of like a fugue state. That's your nervous system being like, we're going to die. We are in a state of threat. So by the time you want to do your behavior, your nervous system has already picked up on that you're in stress, that you're under threat, and it's trying to get you to do what you've always done. And then again, the more you resist that, the more your nervous system is going to perceive that you're going to die. Like, that's what's happening. So when the alcoholic can't stop themselves from drinking, and they have to go to AA every single time because it's like so hard. And think about part of the reason that AA works for the people that it works for is because what is it doing? It's getting you that love and acceptance for the new behavior. It's forcing you into a state of presence. When your nervous system wants you to do the old thing, right? The drinking is the coping mechanism. The drinking is how you don't be who you really are. It's how you express who you really are, like you need to be able to express, and you're so suppressed, and drinking is the only time when you're allowed to let your real self out. Or these are usually the reasons we have these kinds of addictions, right? And it's how you're coping with your life that you hate. It's all of these things. And then you go to AA, and what do you get? You get to be honest. And then you get a circle of support around you, which is programmed into our nervous systems as being the one thing that is safe. When we're seen and heard and validated, that is safety to our nervous systems. So then all of a sudden the pain that's been driving you to drink is less because you got your need met in a different way. This is part of the reason why for some people AA completely works. Because it all of a sudden gives them this community, this support, this love that they've been looking for their entire lives. They get to bring their whole broken self, right, to the world. You're broken, you're addicted, there's something wrong with you. You get to bring all that, and then a whole bunch of people tell you they love you. That is like therapy. And so Glenn says, if there's nothing wrong with me, does it mean I don't need to change? Or do I change to have pleasure without negative effect? Exactly. You answered your own question. There's nothing wrong with you. You, as an individual being, are just trying to survive. You're trying to be yourself in this world, and this is how you were programmed, that is how it happens. However you're behaving right now, whatever your patterns are, that is your programming. This is how I have to be to survive. And in order to grow, I have to be surviving. Now, if what you're doing is causing you pain, that's taking the red pill. If we want to wake up to what is actually true in reality, so what is actually going to support our real true growth, which isn't the same as what supported our growth in our childhoods. That isn't the same as what our nervous systems think reality is. Because again, we have to remember that in our childhoods, it was true that we were completely dependent on someone else. We were codependent. That was a reality. We were victim to our caregivers. Okay? That is reality. You could not take care of yourself. Every single one of us was born a victim, if we want to look at it that way, to our caregivers, to our society. Because if we were not accepted, if we were not loved, we did not get our needs met. And that is the original trauma. I'm being myself. I'm just doing what's natural because I'm a child and I don't know yet what the rules are, or that there even are rules. I'm not even aware of myself. I'm just naturing. Yeah? And then all of a sudden, pain, which I don't understand. It's an emergency. I think I'm going to die because my brain is not capable of understanding time and that things can happen and mom can be mad and still love me. Like, we're not capable of any of those complex thoughts. It's just pain, threat, caregiver doesn't take care of me, I'm going to die. What do I need to do to get caregiver to pay attention to me, to understand me, to love me, to come back to me? Rescue me. How many of us still live like that? All of us. Right? We still live like we're victims like that. We still feel like when someone rejects us, that nervous system, oh my God, what do I have to do to get that love back? Right? We can be in the most abusive, horrible, codependent, narcissistic, whatever words we're all using now, relationships with someone. And we feel like we're losing that person. And we'll do anything to get them back. And we think like, what is wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing. They match the programming of your childhood. All the relationships you're in right now match the programming of your childhood. You know how to be and who to be and what to be in those relationships to get love, approval, and acceptance. And to your nervous system, that feels like survival. Because again, all of us still are projecting onto everyone, you meet this need for me, 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 and I behave in these ways, and it makes you all do these things. Because that's how it was in my childhood. You're like my mom, you're like my dad, you're like my mom, you're like my dad. And we don't even realize we're doing it. And all the people in the world that have different conditioning than us, we're not attracted to them. Because we don't understand the way that they work. We don't know who we have to be to get them to love us and meet our needs. Yes, someone says, I knew a girl who said she'd rather be treated bad than be alone. That's our childhood nervous system. That's our childhood programming. That if we're alone, we die. If we're rejected, we die. Because again, that was reality. That was reality. When our nervous systems were being programmed, that was reality. Now, it's not. Now we're adults who can start to say, this behavior isn't the highest way to get this need met. I can start to understand and then get my own needs met. I can start to understand myself and reality and why things hurt and why things feel good. And the whole world can reject me. And if I'm living in alignment with truth, reality is going to support me. And I am like a perfect poster child for this. Because there's so much about me that just does not fit society. Does not fit conditioning. Does not fit culture. And yet, somehow, life keeps supporting me. I keep checking further and further and further out of the system. Which has felt like nervous system suicide. Because again, I'm one of these people that's just, there must be something weird about my biology or something about my brain chemistry that I haven't been able to numb. I've never been able to do what I was supposed to do and to be what I was supposed to be. And I tried really hard. and I did a lot of maneuvering, and it was killing me. And my nervous system could not take it. Real reality continued to trump consensus reality. And so I kept having to do what was true to me and get rejected. I've lost so many people. I've lost so many things. I have walked off what I thought the proverbial plank was over and over and over and over again. And yet, I'm always caught. Something always happens that leads to me being supported, even though I'm stepping out of my conditioning. And it feels scary and like I'm going to die every single time. So this is what I'm saying. If you want to ask me why I know what I know, because I have followed my nervous system. I felt the feelings of this feels like I'm going to die if I do this. And then I've really investigated, where did that come from? I've looked at my patterns that were self-abusing and were causing negative effects. So again, how do you find your authentic self through your childhood trauma? You can answer that question because I've told you what the answer is. We start with looking at all of your behavior, everything that you do, everything that you feel, as though it's there to try to preserve you. Where did I learn? Where did I learn that this is the best way to survive? Where did I learn that this is how I get my needs met? And then we start to ask ourselves, what needs am I getting met through this? All your worst stuff, all your worst behaviors, what needs am I getting met through this? How is this shutting a part of me down that I fundamentally believe is wrong? Right? If I didn't have this thing anymore, who would I be? And could I actually be that? Where did I learn that being that is not okay? That I will die? Yes? This is the red pill. Everything that you do is coming from a state of trying to preserve yourself. If you want to know what real reality is, it's not out there. It's not. You will start to understand why out there is the way that it is. You will start to understand why everyone is acting the way they're acting. You will start to see through the manipulation and the lies and the whatever of the government and the media and all these things, and no one has to tell you. Because you will start to see first in yourself, okay, I'm doing this because of this. Because I learned that this is the way I have to be in order to get this need met. And I have this need, right? Like even coming to start to understand what you need. Look at your self-abusing behaviors and start to say, how is this meeting my need? What need is this meeting? Where is the pleasure in this? Where is the pleasure in this? And then you're going to be like, whoa, okay, well, doing this gives me pleasure because I was trained in my childhood that this is what makes me good. These are the only times me and my caregiver had good times together, was when I was being like this. When I do this thing, it stops me from being this way. And every time I was this way, I got rejected, abused, and abandoned. So if I really actually want to let go of this behavior, I'm going to start to be this person, and to my nervous system, that's death. So how do we start to... So if, as adults, we are capable of meeting our own needs, what is the purpose of relating with others? Again, don't go black and white thinking. It's much more... Yes, it's not black and white. It's not either I'm fully codependent or I'm fully independent. You see how that's childhood thinking? Either or, one or the other. It's only one. If it's not this, it's the opposite. No. Take the red pill. Reality is complex, where we understand that we are an individual that is a part of a collective. And so we work with people. The more we are aware of our own needs, our own desires, and we are going to discover a lot. Okay? This is true. We are going to discover a lot that we, and this is like another, this is such a deep question and I love it. First things first, we are going to discover that so many of our needs can be met by our own selves. That yes, we are going to shift from relating to others based on how do you serve a need for me and how do I serve a need for you. That is the old paradigm. That's the old way of relating. That's the codependent way of relating. You meet this need for me, I meet this need for you. When we start to become true adults, we start to understand what our own needs are, and number one, we start to work with people on a consent basis. Are you willing to meet this need for me? Because most of our relationship conflicts come from the fact that we have these expectations that we are not aware of, these needs that we're not aware of, and we're asking others to serve us without being aware that we're even asking them that. We have these completely unconscious expectations, and then they don't meet our expectation, and we get mad, and we have these fights, and we feel resentment and all this stuff because we weren't even aware that we were expecting something from them, and they let us down, and then our nervous system freaks out, and then we do what we think we're supposed to do, and then it doesn't work, and then it's manipulation city. So that's the first thing. We start to come into, okay, whoa, you upset me there because I had an expectation I didn't even realize. Right? And then we start to say, okay, this was my expectation. Are you willing to live up to that expectation or not? And if you're not, how can I start to learn to get that need met in another way without you? That's empowerment. And again, sometimes that'll mean I go to someone else. Sometimes that'll mean I meet that need for myself. Because again, like with me and my husband, he still meets needs for me. Like he takes out the garbage. I could do that on my own, but I really enjoy that he does it. And then I don't have to. And then I make him food. And it's not that he's not capable. And a lot of the time, breaking our codependency, we do need to go kind of swing the other way. How independent can we get to prove to our nervous systems that we can get rejected and all these things and still get our own needs met? This is part of our reprogramming. We start to re-understand our needs. We start to understand our needs for the first time. We start to meet them on our own. We let ourselves get rejected. We let ourselves get abused and abandoned. We let ourselves be who we have been told our whole lives we are not supposed to be. And we really take the time, so this is part of the tool, to be in our physical bodies to observe that we didn't die. Because a lot of us, we're going to contradict our programming. We contradict our conditioning. And then we have all these stories in our head of how we're going to die or how this isn't going to work or I'm going to lose my job, and then our nervous system thinks that that stuff happened. So part of the reprogramming is seeing your own needs, seeing your own true self, seeing all this stuff, going and doing the new thing, feeling your nervous system freak out, because that's what's going to happen, feeling the want and the need to go back to what you used to do. And then you start to say, okay, look though, I didn't die. Like really ground into your body. Do the 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. Feel your body. Really come into the present moment and show your nervous system. Look though, we're alive. We're okay. And you do that over and over and over again. That's how you reprogram your nervous system. And then with the relationship thing. And then relationships stop being about 2 people meeting each other's needs, and they start being about actually getting to know someone, actually being in relationship with this other person as a separate individual from you who's not there to meet or not meet your needs, but as someone to just be with, to learn from, to experience stuff with. It's a completely different view of relationships. Which is, yes, you're going to meet some needs for me. Yes, I'm going to meet some needs for you. Those are going to be communicated. And then there's going to be tough parts and we're going to not know. And like being in relationship is medicine. because it's constantly helping us see where our needs are that we are unconsciously getting met through others and all this stuff. And this is what we, part of the medicine of being in a relationship. And then I say, and then relationships can be about just learning about someone else, being with someone else, experiencing things together. It's not about needs. It's not about, do you meet my need? How do you meet my need? Are we compatible in our needs? Like, that's just recreating childhood. That's not an adult relationship. When in the process, Glenn, I'm the wrong teacher for you, I think. If you really want this, I don't believe in awakened or enlightened. When do we get awakened or enlightened? Most of us, what we think about that is, and then I'm done. Never. That completely contradicts biology. We can get to a place where we understand the process of life, that we're always going to have unconscious, that we're always going to have things we're going to grow into, that we're always going to have things that we believe are reality that aren't, things that we believe aren't reality that are, things to grow into, things that we realize that then we evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve. So getting to a place where we understand and are at peace with the process of life, I believe we can get there. But that means that we're still going to get sad, we're still going to get angry, we're going to have emotions, we're going to have pain, we're going to have struggle, we're going to have stuff we didn't know, we're going to have stuff we want to grow into that we don't know how to, we're going to have unconscious stuff. All that stuff is going to come up. And rather than that being a sign that we're not enlightened, we take the enlightened perspective of, okay, what am I going to learn? Right? To me, the enlightened perspective is, how is this showing me something I didn't know? How is this a part of my growth path? What can I learn from this and use to be a part of my growth? To me, that's what enlightenment is. Living in a state of enlightenment is, I am taking everything as an opportunity to grow. Because that's the one thing that feels good to your biology as part of nature. The one thing that feels like pleasure to us is growth. That which is serving our growth. Right? And when we get into a fear state, self-preservation, just do what we've always done, that's what feels good. So the enlightened perspective is, how can I make myself safe in whatever I'm experiencing right now? Whatever I'm feeling right now, whatever I'm thinking right now. How can I make myself safe? Because again, we work with the nervous systems we have. We're wired and programmed that love and acceptance equals safety. And it's only in safety that we can learn, grow, change, evolve, and expand. And that's biology. When we're in a state of fear, we go into lockdown. Okay? This is it. When you can be your own safe place, you are taking the red pill. It will expand your awareness to everything you need to know. One little step at a time. You don't need plant medicine. You don't need a shamanic journey. Yes, we have people that we talk to and they help us see things we didn't see, and we have counselors and healers and all these things, and I'm not dissing any of that. But ultimately, it's you looking at you. Right? And I missed a comment. So Blue says, I've been accused of being black or white, thinking I give people so many chances, then I leave. I have no friends, but can't go back to any of them, and they love me. And yeah, right, like, working through our traumas is a process. And sometimes we are, like every spiritual person, has had the wilderness experience. We all have had the wilderness, like, where you just isolate for a while. You kind of have to check out of everything. Because that's part of it. That's part of the deprogramming. Where you just learn to be with yourself and you kind of like face all your demons. That's normal, right? Every spiritual allegory has that part. Every hero's journey has that part where we go through the wilderness. So don't judge it. Be in it. It's part of it. Okay, so this deprogramming, the real taking of the red pill, starts with true self-love, which is where you start to reject the idea that there's something missing, lacking, wrong with you, because that just stimulates your nervous system into fear. And you start to say, how is this serving me? How did my nervous system get programmed that this is the best way to be to survive? This is my conditioning. Any self-abusive behavior that I have is conditioning. It's not my fault. I didn't choose it. It's my nervous system thinks I need to do to survive. So what needs am I getting met this way? What needs am I getting met this way? And how can I start to meet those needs in new ways? Watch my nervous system flip out. Right? Do the new thing. Feel the fear. And then show my body that I'm alive. Get present. Get out of my stories and see what actually happened. When I did this thing, did I actually get fired? Did I actually lose my job? Did I actually die? Like all the yeah, but what if? And we go, okay, but hold on. What's actually happening? That's why pulling yourself into the present moment and seeing that you're not dead is so important, right? Every spiritual teacher talks about being present. Because if you actually do it, you actually get in your body, you prove to your nervous system that your conditioning isn't true. That's how we reprogram. Right? So I talk a lot about this in my mystery school. I go so deep. Tools, practices, all this stuff. But again, I'm giving it also for free here. We look at our own black and white thinking. We look at our own, if it's not this, then it must be the opposite. And we start to say, how might that not be true? How is this what was programmed in my conditioning? And then again, looking out and seeing that it's like, yeah, but that's how the world really is. And it's like, is it though? Or is it you're recreating your childhood by only being attracted to the people who are like your childhood? You keep getting in situations that are familiar to you. Because doing something different, even if it's better, feels like a threat to your nervous system. So you have to look at, how am I getting my needs met? How is everything that I'm doing a way I'm getting a need met? Discovering your own needs through your coping mechanisms, through your self-sabotaging behavior, starting to see that everything you're doing is a way you're getting your need met. You start to discover what your needs actually are. You start to get those needs met in different ways, and then think that you're going to die, and then show your nervous system that you don't. Over and over and over and over again. Because you don't need to change. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're in pain and you don't want to be, it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's just, this is clearly my programming. This is how I'm getting a need met right now. It's partially getting it met, but it's in a destructive way. So what is the thing that's good about it? What's the thing that's destructive about it? How can I try something new and then show my nervous system that I don't die in the process? And if we embrace that this is how life is going to be, that we're always going to be learning, and if we can just say, the thing that brings me the most peace is I can learn from this. I can grow from this. Everything that comes my way is an opportunity to learn and grow, and that doesn't mean that I'm shitty. Right? We accept ourselves exactly as we are right now. True self-love says I never have to change in order to be worthy of love. Self-acceptance. So I have that all the time. Then I feel safe. Then I can grow. Because we all just want to feel safe first. So the more you love yourself just as you are, you feel safe. Because that's your nervous system. And then you can do the growing, which is what feels like the enlightened life. Okay? That's the red pill. Everything you're doing is you're doing it for self-preservation. Radically accept everything you do. Make yourself radically safe in everything that you are. And watch how you discover what you really need, can do something different, retrain your nervous system, and that's what that is. Okay? Mwah. Thank you for being here. I think you're amazing. You're perfect. And I'll see you in the next live. Mwah.